Serving second isn't easy. You work hard, you stay faithful, you get things done, sometimes better than everyone else, and still nobody notices. You're the one that people depend on. You carry the weight. You keep things together when the system shakes. But if you're honest, sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes you wonder, who's taking care of me when I'm taking care of everybody else? It's easy to think that being second means being less than, that if you were stronger, louder, or flashier, you'd be in the first chair, you would be leading. But the truth is, serving second isn't for the weak. It's for warriors. Those who can work hard, stay humble, and keep their integrity when no one is watching. Hey family, my name is Dr. Toussaint Williams, and I am your host on the Serving Second podcast. This is where I show you how to win from the second chair, how to create first place outcomes from second place finishes. Welcome to the Serving Second podcast. In 2014, Admiral William McRaven stood before a group of college students at Texas A&M and gave one of the most practical leadership lessons ever spoken. He didn't talk about his military prowess. He didn't talk about his formations or how he trained when he was in the leadership academy. No, he said this: if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Now that sounds simple. For some of you, it may even be silly. But McRaven wasn't talking about neatness. In fact, he and my dad must have known each other. Maybe they crossed paths in the Army at some point. But he told us the same thing when we were young. And I realized even at a young age that making your bed isn't about busy work. It's about discipline. It's about all the small daily chores that build strong character. McRaven, this Navy SEAL, the commander that led the operation to capture Osama bin Laden, he learned that the difference between success and failure wasn't talent. It was discipline under pressure. We're early in the episode, so I can't let you skip that one. This is a gem. I need you to make sure you grab this one. We've got to understand that the difference between success and failure isn't talent. It's discipline under pressure. McRaven told those graduates, if you can't do the small things right, you'll never do the big things well. And that's exactly what second chair leaders live every single day, doing the small things right, faithfully, even when nobody applauses, because the unseen work, that's the work that builds strength. I wish I could tell you that I was reading a book and I learned this in a class. I wish I could tell you that I was watching a YouTube video and this came up, but the reality is, family, that I've lived this. And there were seasons where I was behind the scenes writing or managing and planning and fixing things that nobody ever knew about, that nobody ever talked about, that never made the front page of anybody's newsletter or took a picture that ended up on Instagram. People saw the result, but they didn't see the effort. And there were times, I'm going to be honest with you, there were times that I struggled. I was frustrated because I would ask myself the question, does this even matter? Does anybody even care? What's the point if I skipped a day, if nobody gave me any recognition? What would be the point if I'm doing all these things behind the scenes? And then God began to show me something. Share with me what I want to share with you and deposit into your spirit today. The hidden seasons were never wasted. They were training seasons. He was developing endurance, patience, and humility, character that could handle the calling. And I learned something. Strength in secret builds stability in public ones. I love it. I love it. I'm doing this podcast for me today because I have to remind myself some moments that strength in secret seasons builds stability in public ones. If you can be faithful in the shadows, you'll be trusted in the spotlight. If you can be faithful, that's it. This is this. You can turn the podcast off right here for some of you, but this is the lesson I want to make sure that you get. If you can be faithful in the shadows, you will be trusted in the spotlight. And while I lived this was not original to me. In fact, we've been looking at a person in the Bible. His name is Jonathan, King Saul's oldest son. You remember, as we've been talking about in previous episodes, how Jonathan should have been king after his father, but God went and anointed David. And it's interesting, as we do an analysis on David, I realized that Jonathan understood this long before I did. You see, as we study Jonathan, we don't meet him as a child. We don't know what he liked to do when he was younger, if he played games or if he was a rambunctious child. We don't see him in a classroom or even in a coronation when his father was pronounced king. The first time we find Jonathan in the Bible, he's already fighting. 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 2 and 3 says, Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost at Geba, and the Philistines heard about it. There's no speech. There's no announcement, just courage with motion. Jonathan didn't get on Instagram and say, hey, I'm about to do something against the Philistines. Jonathan didn't put his phone up and made a selfie and say, hey, y'all, watch what I'm about to do. No, while his father stayed back with 2,000 men, Jonathan led with only 1,000, and he led them into battle. Family, this is initiative. This is work ethic. This is faith in action. Notice in these few short verses, Jonathan didn't wait for all the conditions to be right. He didn't wait to be recognized. He didn't wait until the cameras got on and the red record button started. No, he just did the work. And you know what? We would think even after the battle, there would be some type of recognition, some type of acknowledgement, even after the battle. After he wiped his uniform down, after he cleaned his military weapons, it was Saul, his father, that took the credit. His dad got up and said, hey, y'all, look what we did. Watch what I conquered when I attacked the Philistines. And you know what's so interesting about this story? And this is one of the reasons why I love Jonathan so much, is that Jonathan said nothing. He didn't complain, nor did he quit. He kept serving. And family, that's character. He teaches us that your assignment isn't always your applause. And that's okay. Jonathan shows us that we can work and not even have the idea or the thought of being worshiped for our activity. No, Jonathan teaches us that our assignment isn't always your applause, that character is developed behind the scenes. So here's lesson number 1 I want to make sure that we get. Character comes before opportunity. You don't suddenly become trustworthy when the spotlight hits you. You become trustworthy when no one is watching. Jonathan's courage that day didn't start on the battlefield. It started in private discipline. What you do in obscurity determines what God trusts you with in influence. I want to say it one more time because I want to make sure we get this. What you do in obscurity determines what God can trust you with in influence. Now, this is not in my notes. I don't have any specific script, but I believe that you are watching this right now, and I don't know who you are. In fact, you can even put it in the chat. Hey, you're talking to me. There are places that you've been assigned where you're not getting applause. You're not getting acknowledgement. In fact, you feel like, man, why am I even doing this? And I want to challenge you. First, I want to commend you for doing what you're doing. But I want to challenge you to believe that God is ordering your steps. I want to remind you that in this Serving Second podcast, we're going to deal with some difficult moments and some challenging areas in our lives. But that does not mean that you're forgotten by God. It could very well mean that God is working in this season to build you up for what he has for you moving forward. That leads us to our second point. Strength isn't noise. Jonathan didn't announce his bravery. He lived it. And this is one thing I'm learning as we're developing this idea of serving second. Real strength isn't loud, it's consistent. It shows up in discipline, in quiet confidence, in doing what's right even when no one claps. The world celebrates charisma. God celebrates character. And you don't have to shout your strength. You just show it as you're faithful. Strength isn't loud. Point number 3, I want to make sure that we get this. Work reveals worship. And I'm speaking today to every number 2, every leader that serves a leader, every assistant, every vice, every associate, every person that has the ability to lead. But at this point, at this season in your life, God has called you to serve in a secondary role. And one thing I want to make sure that we understand is that to be a great number 2, you've got to understand how to work. Jonathan, if you notice in the text, didn't wait for orders. He led with excellence. And the same is true for us. Serving second isn't a reason to relax. It's a reason to rise. Let me make sure you get this. For some people who've been listening, you are not licensed as someone who's serving second to put your hands behind your back and kick your feet up and say, the number 1 has it. No, family, this is a higher calling to me because it's more challenging to lead when no one is watching. In fact, Paul said this in 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as if you're working for the Lord. Not if you're working for a reward or working for a prize or working for an acknowledgement or a raise. No, he's saying work as if you're working to the Lord. Work becomes worship when you give God your best. And we need to make sure we understand that excellence is faith in motion. It's not about a reward. It's not about applause. It's not about somebody giving me a plaque. It's about me recognizing I know God has called me to this and I'm going to give God my best. This principle reminds me of General Charles Q. Brown Jr., the first African-American Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. For decades, he served faithfully in high-pressure roles few people ever saw. In fact, I didn't know about him until this episode. He was known for his calm leadership, unwavering integrity, and a quiet strength that lifted others. When he was sworn in, he said, "I'm thinking about how I can make things better for those who are coming behind me." Family, that's second-chair leadership. He didn't work for fame. He worked for legacy. His influence came not from ambition, but from character. Many of you will remember this other historical figure. Her name was Harriet Tubman. She could have escaped slavery and stayed free, but she went back again and again to lead others through danger. No title, no recognition, no pay, just grit, prayer, and courage in the dark. She worked quietly for someone else's freedom, and that's what character looks like under fire. Service that costs you something, faith that works even in the shadows. She didn't lead with a sword, she led with the strength of spirit. So what can I take away from all this? I'm glad you asked. Two simple things. Number one, I want to make sure that you're doing is auditing your habits. Look at your daily routines and remember character is built in repetition. Are you doing the small things right? Are you on time? Are you doing it with care and with consistency? Strengthen one habit this week that reflects integrity and discipline. Maybe you need to get up in the morning and make your bed. The little things make a huge difference. And then number two, I want you to serve with strength. Don't wait for somebody to have to tell you what to do. I want you to take intelligent initiative. I want to challenge you to lead where you are because remember, excellence honors God even when no one watches, even when no one notices, even when you don't get a reward. Because remember, serving second isn't for the weak, it's for warriors. My prayer for you today is that you take time to appreciate Jonathan's example: courage under pressure, character under authority. That we can thank God for people who have gone before us, like Admiral McRaven, General Brown, or Harriet Tubman, that remind us that strength and service belong together. Today, we can ask God to help us lead with integrity, to serve with excellence, and to trust that He sees every quiet act of faithfulness. So here we go. Just recapping this episode. Jonathan teaches us that character matters before opportunity. Character matters before opportunity. McRaven showed us that discipline defines our destiny. General Brown from the Air Force showed us that integrity earns influence. And Miss Harriet Tubman reminds us that courage can change history. Character under fire builds leaders that God can trust. So this week, we're going to do it together. We're going to work well. We're going to serve strong and remember our mission statement. The mission I serve is bigger than my title. Help me out. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at Serving Second. And family, we will see you next time. My name is Dr. Toussaint Williams, and this is the Serving Second podcast. See you next week. So here we go. I need you to subscribe on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Instagram at Serving Second. And I need you to share this with somebody. This is going to change somebody's life and change their destiny because the mission that we serve is bigger than our title. I will see you next week.